Hi everyone and welcome back to Storytime with Mr. Inkster, where I'm reading The World's Worst Teachers by David Walliams. We're up to chapter 3, Miss Spick's Trike of Terror. Let's get stuck in. In a world of horrible teachers, one in particular stands out for her wickedness. Step forward, or rather roll forward, Miss Spick. The lady may have been elderly, but she had lost none of her power to instill fear into the hearts of all the pupils at Spottington School. Miss Spick's eyes were as black as coal, her skin was as white as snow, her tongue was long and thin like a snake's. When she spoke, her S's would be sinister. The librarian always rode her three-wheeler mobility scooter along the aisles of books as fast as it would go. Ah! Help! Owie! Kids had to leap out of the way to avoid being run over. Being run over in a mobility scooter is not as much fun as it sounds, and it doesn't sound much fun. Despite the wounded children strewn across the floor, the librarian kept her library impossibly neat and tidy. All the book spines sat on the shelves in perfectly straight lines in strict alphabetical order. There was never a speck of dust or a spot of dirt to be seen anywhere in the Spottington School library. Miss Spick enforced a strict policy of no browsing. Signs reminded you of this every step. In fact, there might have been more signs than there were books. Books were to be taken out or left well alone. When they were returned, the librarian would pull her magnifying glass out of her drawer and thoroughly inspect them for any damage. Without fail, Spick always found some. When she did, you had to pay. There's a fold line on the top page of 137. Fine. There's discoloration on the back cover caused by exposure to sunlight. Fine. There's a greasy smudge from a thumb or a particularly stubby finger on the inside front flap. Fine. Spick determined the fines herself. They would vary widely. The librarian would stare down at your shoes and determine from the state of them what she thought you could afford. Scuffed, 10 pence. Highly polished, £10. The money would then be snatched off you and stuffed in Spick's special tin. The tin was huge, more like a treasure chest, and was full to bursting with cash. Every child at Spottington School had fallen foul to Spick's greed, except two. The Tang twins, Tom and Tim Tang, were child geniuses. The twins always received 100% in all their tests. The bullies called them nerds. No matter, these nerds were sure to invent some sort of supercomputer, become billionaires and take over the world. The Tangs had been dabbling with all kinds of inventions already, even though none had quite caught on yet. They had created internet for cats, flying sheds, invisible hair dryers. They had created internet for cats, flying sheds, invisible hair dryers, self-boiling eggs, exploding cricket balls, night vision goggles for bats, electric flip-flop that walk themselves, nuclear-powered umbrellas, inflatable socks, and hair-free dogs. The Tang twins worked 10 times harder than anyone else at school. They were so studious that they had never been told off in their lives, so it will come as no surprise to you to learn that whenever they returned a book to the library, it was absolutely spotless. Needless to say, this turned Spick incandescent with rage, as it made it impossible for her to find them. Nevertheless, she had amassed a fortune from all the other kids, but what did an elderly school librarian need of all this money? To soup up her mobility scooter, of course. Keep up, the kids gave the beast of a machine a nickname, the Trike of Terror. It was terrifying with all its modifications. Cage up front, big enough in which to fit a small child. Blindingly bright headlights. Snakeskin seat, parachute at back for instant stopping in an emergency, revolving number plate in case going 100 miles an hour she whizzed past a speed camera. A bull bar, black respray, booster battery, go faster stripes, and racing tires. To pay for all these modifications, Miss Spick began imposing on-the-spot fines in the library for all kinds of spurious reasons. Returning a book 1 second late, 10p. Whispering too loudly, 20p. Sneezing on a book, 75p. Looking as if you were about to sneeze on a book, 65p. Having an untucked shirt, 55p. Leaning on a bookcase, 25p. Yawning, 5p. Pulling a book off the shelf by hooking your finger over the top, rather than by pinching the spine with 2 fingers, £8.50. Sharpening your pencil and thereby disturbing the peace, 95p. Sucking on a mint, 35p. Bringing a can of fizzy drink into the library, strictly forbidden, £1.25. Having a head shaped like an egg, 15p. Using a too scratchy pen, 30p. Dropping a crumb on the carpet, 1p. Smiling without prior written consent, 40p. Smelling of cheese, 80p. Tapping the desk, 85p. Breathing more than your fair share of air, 90p. Picking your nose, 50p. Picking your nose and eating it, £1. Picking, licking, rolling and flicking, £2.50. Breaking wind, £1. Soon it was impossible to even set foot in the library without Spick extorting money from you, so the kids simply stopped going, which was a real shame as they loved reading books. Especially my ones. I have never read any of them myself, but I am told they are brilliant. After she'd sat alone in her big empty library for a whole term, without seeing a single visitor, Spick thumped the desk in frustration. Boom! Of course she had to fine herself for doing that. She took 85p out of her special fines tin before immediately putting it back in. Clink! Then Miss Spick had a thought. Ding! If the children would not come to her, she would have to go to them. So she leaped astride her trike of terror and rode it through the double doors of the library. Bang, bang, and out into school. As Miss Spick trundled into the playground, a gust of wind picked up a crisp packet, crinkle, and it flew into her face. Wonderful, she explained. That was because it had given Miss Spick an idea. Ding! On-the-spot fines for littering. You child, that chocolate bar wrapper you so carelessly tossed over your shoulder will cost you dearly, she hissed moments later. But Miss Spick, that wasn't my chocolate wrapper, the girl protested. Oh, yes, it is. No, it isn't, I promise. I'm allergic to chocolate and I've never ever eaten it. In the time you have been talking, the fine has gone up from 60 pence to 70 pence. The kids had no choice but to cough up the cash. If they didn't, Spick would pursue them around the playground, sitting astride the trike of terror. Brum, help, no, ah! The souped-up mobility scooter had just been fitted with stereo speakers. Now Miss Spick could listen to Beethoven's bombastic Fifth Symphony, her favourite piece of music, on a loop as she terrorised them. Dee-dee-dee-dee-dum. All the kids at Spottington School were running out of pocket money, and fast. Every last penny was going straight to Miss Spick, and they had nothing left to spend on the things they truly mattered in life, like football cards, hair scrunchies, ice cream, bubblegum, rude comics, whoopee cushions, stickers, smelly rubbers, and gonks. All of these items and more I have been told to tell you can be found at Raj's newsagents. Many on offer, many more on special offer, and even more on special offer. Someone at the school had to do something to stop Miss Spick. The only kids at Spottington School who were not terrified of her were the Tang twins. It was time for the revenge of the nerds. One break time, the pair were sitting together on the bench in the playground, getting on with some quiet reading. It was a weighty book they'd chosen themselves to read for fun. It was entitled An Expert's Guide to Rocket Science. Their 4 eyes scanned the pages, digesting every last indigestible fact. All was good in the world until they heard the distinctive chords of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Dee-dee-dee-dee-dum. It could only mean one thing. Oh no, remarked Tim Tang. Oh yes, replied Tom Tang. They looked up from their book. The music was heralding the arrival of Spick astride the trike of terror. Rocket science will have to wait, said Tim. It certainly looks like it, agreed Tom. The librarian came to a halt right next to them, the bull bar in the front crashing into their knees. Crunch! Ouch, said Tim. Ditto, agreed Tom. I do hope you haven't dented my scooter, hissed Miss Spike. Us too. How can we help you, Miss Spick? Inquired Tim politely. Well, began the librarian. What have we here? The lady had a long metal spike in one hand, and at the end of it was, dum, 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 a burger wrapper. Tom peered closer. It looked very much like a burger wrapper, Miss Spick. I know that, she snapped. Then we are glad to be of service, Miss Spick, added Tom, and the pair returned to their book. Good day. Miss Spick's face soured. The question is, what was it doing there, right next to your footsies? The Tang twins shared a puzzled look. I imagine it blew over, guessed Tim. Tom nodded. The wind, which is coming from a northwesterly direction, is unusually strong today, miss. It is certainly nothing to do with us, as we have never eaten a burger. We only eat food that is good for our brains. Would you care for a blueberry, miss? Offering one from a clearly labelled Tupperware container. Or a pumpkin seed, asked Tom, reaching into his briefcase for a Tupperware container. No, thundered Spick. For once things weren't going to plan. This burger wrapper was sitting right next to you. There is a fine to pay. £5. The twins looked at each other and gulped. £5, they asked in unison. Each. £10. Hark, the genius, she scoffed. Now pay up, or else. But Miss Spick, protested Tom, we've been saving up all our pocket money since Christmas for a book that looks really fun called Advanced Quantum Mechanics, added Tim. Hand the money over now, snarled Spick. The twins looked close to tears as they pulled their matching wallets out of the smart black briefcases and began counting all the coins they had saved up. Spick snatched their wallets out of her hands. I shall take those. Then the librarian sped off on her mobility scooter, cackling to herself and waving her spike in the air in triumph. Success! Ha ha ha! Brum! Poor Tim's eyes glowed with tears. Without a word, Tom offered his brother his handkerchief. When he had dabbed his face dry, Tim studied the back of Miss Spick's scooter, and it trundled off across the playground. What's that? He asked. What's what? Replied his twin. That black box she had fitted on the back. Tom's eyes homed in on the box. There was an opening at the base of it, like a little cat flap. Every few meters or so it flapped open, dropping a piece of litter as it went. Rustle, a sweet wrapper. Thunk, a fizzy drink can. Plonk, a lolly stick. Clonked, a plastic bottle. Thud, a crisp tube. It was a litter flap. I don't believe my eyes, Tom. You should believe them, Tim, because my eyes are seeing it too. Spick is spreading the rubbish herself. What a rotten rotter! We must inform the authorities. Spick is the authorities. Oh yes, we can't inform the authorities about the authorities. No, if you will forgive me, Tom, I think I have a better idea, said Tim, his eyes lighting up with his own undeniable genius, and an expert's guide to rocket science is unwittingly provided the inspiration. All of a sudden it dawned on Tom what Tim was on about. They were identical twins, after all. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? He asked. Great minds think alike. They most certainly do, agreed Tom. The twins smiled and continued scanning the pages of their book. The pair were in no hurry to wreak their revenge. The Tangs were methodical and wanted their plan to be perfect, or, more accurately, perfectly dastardly. These boys didn't get 100% in every exam for nothing. They read every book they could about rocket science, watched every documentary about space travel, and even visited space museums at weekends, until the day they were finally ready. That morning, the Tang twins spotted the Trike of Terror. Parked up outside the ladies' toilet block in the playground, the librarian was famous for her long morning poos that would often go on until way into the afternoon. Long as in duration, not in length. Those are two very different world records. The record for the longest time it took to do a poo is 3 days, 11 hours, 27 minutes and 18 seconds. That is held by Miss Constance Pate. The length record for longest poop is 2.7 miles, end to end. That is held by Mr. Malcolm Mangle. An interesting fact is that the pair met in a poop prize-giving ceremony and fell madly in love. Now they have a baby, who they hope one day will set a new poo world record for distance, meaning how far the poop falls after it's fired from the point of exit. They knew they would have time to add this latest modification to her mobility scooter. The Tang twins had meticulously constructed 2 booster rockets. These they smuggled into school in their cello cases. Speedily, they attached the rockets to Miss Spike's mobility scooter. Clink, clank, clunk. The twins had just finished tightening the last bolts when Spick staggered out of the toilet. They hid behind a bicycle shed. Not being in lessons was sure to arouse Miss Spick's suspicions. The scooter had so many bizarre modifications over the years that the librarian didn't notice the new cylinder on each side. She swung her leg over the scooter and sat at the controls. Just then the bell rang for the beginning of break time. Ding! In anticipation, she spun the speed dial on the Trike of Terror. From slow to medium to fast to too fast to pants-wettingly fast before resting her hand on the brake. Meanwhile, the Tang twins stepped out of their hiding place and tried to act naturally. "Good morning, Miss Spick," they said in unison. "Oh, it's you 2 idiots," scoffed Spick. "You owe me money." "We gave you everything we had," replied Tom. "Actually, she snatched it off us," said Tim. "I stand corrected." Miss Spick's black eyes narrowed. "The fine for littering was £10, and in your wallets you only had £9 and 99 pence. As soon as we receive our pocket money, we will be sure to give you that penny," reasoned Tom. "We can always deposit the coin through that little flap there," said Tim, pointing to the back of the scooter. "I don't know what you mean," protested the librarian. "Oh, I think you do," replied Tom. "Drive safely now, or should we say, fly safely." "What are you 2 ridiculous nerds on about?" she demanded. "All in good time, Miss Spick," said Tom. "All in good time," echoed Tim. By the time all the kids were pouring out of their classrooms onto the playground, lots and lots of horrible children to run over. "This is going to be fun." "It most certainly is," replied the twins with a smile. Spick flicked a switch. Beethoven's Fifths boomed out of the speakers. Dee-dee-dee-dee-dum. The librarian let go of the brake. To her surprise, the 2 booster rockets fired up. "What the—" Bang! But before she could say whatever rude word she was going to say next, fire and smoke shot out of the rockets. Boosh! The Trike of Terror was blasted into the sky. Zoom! No! She cried. Yes! Cheered the entire school as their dreaded librarian zoomed over their heads. Whiz! Spick rocketed up, 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 through the clouds, lighting the sky with red and gold. In seconds, she was passing through the Earth's atmosphere. Kaboom! The rockets detached and parachuted back to the playground. Thunk, thunk. This left Miss Spick holding on to her mobility scooter for dear life, floating through space. "Help!" she screamed, though she was so far away nobody could hear her. Now you will be pleased to learn that space is absolutely full of debris. Not just meteors, but scraps of old spacecraft, satellites, and space stations circle the Earth. "Oh, ouch! Oh!" cried Spick as all these bits and bobs bashed into her. "Dunk! Thang! Boink!" As for our heroes, the Tang twins, they were still safely on Earth, staring up at the sky. "Excellent work, Tim Tang." "I was about to say the same thing, Tom Tang. I do believe she called us nerds." "There is no higher compliment." They shook hands at their job well done. "Pumpkin seed?" offered Tom. "Don't mind if I do," replied Tim. They walked off together, munching on their brain food for chess club. Excellent. That's that finished then. Hope you enjoyed it. Please join us next time for Miss Conceit, the human work of art. See you next time. Bye.